Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the DVD commentary for Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem 2 Requiem for the Infinite. I'm Dave Baker. I write the comics Action Hospital, Fuck Off Squad, and Suicide Forest, and I co-directed AVP 2 IRRI.
Hello, and I'm Scott Drummond. I write and draw the comic Night Smoke, and I am the other co-director for AVP IR2 R for the Eye.
This is actually this is the first time that Scott and I have spoken since Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem was released in theaters to much acclaim and massive financial success. The first movie is now it just had its 1 year anniversary, and that entire year has been filled with legal battles and personal travails for the two of us. But I don't want to speak for you, Scott.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are correct. We have been at each other's throats constantly, or at least our lawyers have, in both legal and physical battles.
The newly minted American Gladiator legal octagon, where our lawyers were donned the spandex of yore and fought each other with Nerf weapons.
It's pretty amazing. I was always entranced by the glistening bodies and weapons of our champions as they fought for our legal rights. Mm-hmm. I didn't really understand the visceral reactions that can get a person until I saw it in person. So I want to thank you, Dave, for being the worst, so that we could have these horrific legal battles.
No, Scott, don't sell yourself short. You are a complete fuckhead. It's not me. It's you who, in fact, are the worst. But before we get into too much of the behind-the-scenes drama that has become the notorious fallout of Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem, let's talk about how Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Innocent, got made. When did the project first come to you?
Well, I think obviously after the success of the first movie, they approached both of us, I assume, in turn, and wanted a sequel to the AVP IR universe. The first one, although it is still playing in theaters, obviously, because it never has stopped, leaves so much unanswered. And although I think both you and I don't want to speak for you, but part of the movie was that it would forever be unanswered. We thought that it might be good to come back and answer some of those questions. So I think it was perhaps the fall of 2017, or no, 2016, I guess it was, that they sort of came to us and proposed that we get in the time machine to try to go back and create this movie. It was and I think it was the right choice. You can hear in the background there the
dog.
Yeah, the dog.
The dog that she guards my abode currently, because I have a little bit of a paranoia complex about Scott showing up on my doorstep, honestly. So she kind of just barks at anyone that looks vaguely like Scott and or is named Scott.
Yeah, that's fair. You got nothing to worry about, Dave. I won't personally be coming for you if someone does try to murder you. Obviously, that would be foolish of me. And
just the simple fact that I don't even think you're allowed legally on U.S. soil anymore, right? Isn't that why you live in your houseboat?
Well, I don't live in the houseboat anymore. You had been following my Snapchats I live currently in a train going throughout South America. So the Wi-Fi is actually pretty good. I've been impressed so far, which is how we can kind of come together and make this recording. But Dave, when did you get first approached by Fox to take on this movie?
Yeah, I would just like to throw out a big thank you to Smigel, our I don't remember his last name, Smigel Borgenstein, I think might have been his name.
That sounds right.
Yeah, Smigel Borgenstein, who was our executive on this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's a
great guy,
really solid guy.
He really believes in us.
He was one of the ones who was like, guys, put the beef aside. The fans are the only people who are really losing out.
Right.
If you don't make another Infinite Requiem, there's just no telling what it's going to do to the fan base. And we're fans ourselves. We came at this because we just love the idea of showcasing the kind of hard romance that has always lurked just underneath the surface of the Alien versus Predator brand, but was never really tapped into. We've always wanted to depict that cohabitation and the way that living with someone just removes all joy and sensuality out of the connection with them, and makes you just want to kill them.
Right.
Over time, we really wanted to kind of dig in there. But the project actually came to me because I was vacationing in the Poconos, and I ran into a young woman who had been hired to write a treatment for what would eventually become Alien versus Predator Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Innocent. But at that time, it was called Alien versus Predator Vacation of the Infinite. And it was kind of a road picture about, it's kind of like Stella Got Her Groove Back meets Crossroads meets Glitter meets Terminator 2.
Right.
Which I thought that take could have worked.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. They, it was part of that was they dressed up, sort of did a cross dress of each other, and so the Predator looked like the alien looked like the Predator. They really kind of got into each other's literal and figurative shoes in that movie, that treatment at least. I thought it had a lot of merits, but ultimately, a lot of it ended up not being used.
Yeah, I mean, originally, the studio really wanted it to be kind of a celebration of the franchise, but at the same time putting a new face on the franchise.
Right.
And I think they were talking to Nick Cage at one point about taking over the third dreadlock from the left on the Predator's helmet. And I was like, that's an interesting idea. I don't know if Nick Cage has the range to play the third dreadlock, because that's a really important dreadlock.
Right.
Especially when an alien is wearing it.
Exactly.
I don't know. I could have totally seen him playing, the second or the third toilet paper roll that's on top of the, the back of the toilet. But
he would have been a great Holy Spirit toilet paper roll.
Totally. But ultimately, I worked with Vanessa. Her name was Vanessa Hutchins, no relation to the pop star.
Right.
I worked with Vanessa Hutchins for probably, 4 or 5 months, even before you were brought back on board, and we kind of were forced contractually to work together again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, Dave. What you had done up until that point was serviceable for a modern, mainstream audience. But I think you and I both know that, the conflict that we have creates horrific high art.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those, it's the age-old question, can a conflictless life produce great work? And I don't know where I come down on that, but I do know that I hate you and I wish you ill. But man, we made a hell of a movie this time. I mean, from the intimate character portrait stuff to the big action sequences, I feel like the fact that we almost, stabbed each other on that island,
right.
I feel like that catharsis really shows up on the screen.
Yeah, I think so too. The interesting thing here, so in this scene coming up, you'll see just for a brief moment some of that island lighting that Dave was talking about. We really wanted to kind of bring in that, that beautiful, warm colored light that you can only get on the island that we were on. What was that island called? I forgot.
Oh, the island was called Taquito.
That's right. Yeah, Taquito, the Taquitos.
Yeah.
And so once we were, hanging out with the Taquitans, they sort of opened our eyes, I believe, to kind of a simpler way of life, and I think that kind of shows throughout the film as well.
Yeah, they really were just like, hey man, you only need one Wi-Fi router. And that was mind-blowing to me.
It was crazy.
Like, you don't need 6 hotspots. You just don't. Yeah. And that really helped me break through some creative barriers, especially just because, the movie at its core is all about just trying to get pure signal, whether that's an emotional thing or an actual just technical thing.
Yeah.
And when someone who's a little bit outside of your realm of experience comes in and shows you pure signal comes from the heart, it really helped me get full bars emotional.
Right. Let's talk about some of the effects in this one and how they differed from the
previous film. Yeah. Films. Well, especially in this scene coming up right here.
Oh yeah. This is a great example.
This is a great scene. The shower curtain in this scene was produced by Stan Winston Studios. Fully rendered, practical shower curtain that was made specifically for this film. You can't buy it anywhere else. Although, that being said, I think Sideshow is now putting out a replica shower curtain.
Yeah, that's true.
Previous shower curtain was completely, hand created by Stan Winston Studios, which I felt like, the last couple Alien vs. Predator films, all of the visual effects have been done by K&B Effects. But I'm sure, as everyone knows, the original Predator was designed by Stan Winston Studios, and I really felt like it was our duty.
Yep, we wanted to get back to that, get back to those roots.
Get back to those roots, especially since we're taking such, kind of big emotional chances. Later on in the hotel bathroom scene where the Predator comes in and admits that he's been cheating on the alien, which is actually the alien because the Predator's in the alien costume and the alien's in the Predator costume.
Right.
That kind of Mobius loop of infidelity would not be possible if the shower curtain wasn't 100% believable.
Right. Well, and a lot of people don't know this, and we kind of covered it up in, we covered it in maybe one of the blogs, I believe, during the production, but there were a ton of, ravens on the island, on Taquito, and so a lot of these shower curtains, the shower curtain rods, the rings you'll see, those were actually where the ravens would just stand. And so we had to kind of digitally put those in. The ravens were the ones that held the practical shower curtain up. But obviously,
and a lot of them were trained ravens too.
Yeah, they were. They cost a fortune, those trained ravens, but they did great work.
Yeah, the Raven Wrangler, Todd Smythe.
TS as we call them.
Yeah, TTS. Yeah, Todd Smythe. He was a force of nature on the set. There were many conversations of how do we put Todd into this movie. Like, he was such a fucking character that there was a large percentage of the crew who was actually threatening to just leave if we didn't put Todd in the film. But we were really reticent after everything that happened with Yuko on the last set. We only wanted people who were highly trained.
Todd was incredible. TTS, he had such amazing control over those ravens. I'm sure you've seen some of the YouTube videos where he is able to fly because the ravens will, grab his clothing and then fly off with him, and he calls out, and they sort of, whisk him around the sky.
Yeah, I think he's I think the only human who has a degree in Raven speech.
Mhm.
Like I think he literally can speak Raven.
It's pretty incredible.
I never heard him say it, but again, the Takidans, that's what they all were they were very impressed with him. He has a big Takidan following. He's really big in Takido. I'm just glad that so many of the young Takidan boys ended up helping us, to really kind of, they were unfiltered. We would be in their world, and they would say, "You're not doing this right. You're not, you're not depicting that right. This is insensitive." They really held us accountable and made sure that we made the best version of Alien versus Predator: Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Infinite, that they, that's something they could be proud of as much. It's really, this is as much their movie as it is ours.
Yeah, not financially. We still made all of the money, but
yeah, we made all of the money, and we really have no connection with any of them anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened to any of them.
No, I know a couple just because I use a photo of me with 35 different Takishan boys as my, we're kind of smiling up into the camera. I use that as my Tinder profile now. And every once in a while, somebody will be like, "Oh, I know," insert name of Takishan here. But other than that, I really just kind of don't give a shit about any of them. I got what I needed from them.
Right. Yeah, nailed it. Let's talk about
Scott,
let's talk about.
No. What were you going to say, Scott?
I was going to ask you about the controversial recasting of the Predator. And especially the eyeballs. We sort of had to go a different route, unfortunately, from AVP IR 1. And it was pretty regrettable, but we don't want to talk about what happened there. But I thought maybe we'd talk about how we moved on from that.
Yeah. So the filming of Alien vs. Predator: Infinite Requiem was something that was deeply personal for both Scott and I. We both really gave it our all. It was a story that took the sum of our experience to create. And honestly, a few of the actors who played the Predator, specifically the director who was hired previous to us, who played the 4th or 5th Dreadlock. I don't remember which one now, because I've kind of put most of that out of my mind. We did him a favor. We were like, "Hey, you're not going to direct the movie anymore, but yeah, you can play one of the Dreadlocks," and the other actors who played the Predator, just, they gave it their all, but ultimately, for this second film, we needed a clean slate. The emotional turmoil that was Alien vs. Predator: Infinite Requiem, we didn't want that for this film. We wanted.
I think we broke a lot of people in the first movie, and unfortunately they weren't strong enough to come back emotionally, mentally, and the legs didn't work anymore. But the gentleman that played the left eye, Paul Twattensmock.
Paul. Oh my God, what a great guy! Great guy. Up until he wasn't.
Right. I think he had a lot of screen time in the first one, and I think he, not to speak ill of Paul, but I think he really wanted this second movie to be more about his character of the Predator Eye, and when this sort of direction became that the Predator would put on the alien head, he realized that it just wasn't going to happen for him, because obviously the alien doesn't have eyes. And unfortunately, there's a lot of disagreements there about, would we see the eye through the alien mask and all of that. And we just had to go a different direction. But
yeah, and ultimately, again, shout out to Smigel, our Fox executive, man. He went to bat for us. He was like, "Look, if they don't want to show the eyeball, they don't have to show the eyeball."
Right.
If they want to show the eyeball, they can show the eyeball. It's their film. And ultimately, for you and I think for me, it was a very liberating creative experience.
Yeah.
It was the first movie. While it's very near and dear to my heart, there are creative compromises riddled throughout it. Just because we were young, directors. We didn't have a track record as we do now.
Right.
We didn't have the fiscal success of the first film backing up our decisions. So for Smigel to come in and be like, these motherfuckers, if they want that predator to flush the toilet, he should flush the goddamn toilet.
Yeah, he can flush the toilet with one hand, both hands, just like get an elbow up there. He wants to elbow flush, he can do that. That's fine.
Yeah. Scott, so you have had some health problems recently. And I know that the AVP IR2 ROI fan base has been reaching out to you, and you've been shunning them.
Yeah, well, I mean, they are a great fan base, but they just talk a lot about this movie, for better or for worse. I mean, I do feel blessed that people love the films that we make, but at the same time, it can be a bit overwhelming. This is a deeply personal subject for you, Dave. I am slowly losing the skin on the underside of my body.
Which side is the underside of your body?
Just whatever is consistently facing downward. Yeah, it's a very strange condition, and I tried to not let it interfere with our shooting schedule, but I'm sure that you probably noticed at some points that I had to hang upside down like a bat, and that was obviously to keep sort of a rotation going. Whatever part of my skin faces towards the center of the earth just kind of seems to deteriorate, and I'm not sure where I picked this up, but and I appreciate that the fan base has been very supportive, but that's sort of why I'm always on this train, and I also have strapped myself into sort of a gyroscope that is constantly spinning to keep myself alive.
Yeah, I remember the first time I found out. We were probably midway through the shoot for AVP IR2 IOR or ROI, sorry.
Yeah.
And I was walking into your trailer to ask you a question about the dailies that had just come back, and I found you hanging upside down. You were like a bat, but your skin on your head was coming off.
Yeah, it's pretty embarrassing.
It was so traumatic, but I couldn't help but laugh.
And that was a hurtful time for me.
Just looks so stupid. Just like so stupid. I just God, I'm getting emotional.
Yeah.
As much as you don't mean anything to me, seeing you in pain like that really helped me.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. It's. I'm just glad it's genetic, or it's not genetic, so that my children hopefully will as long as they stay out of the same room as me, won't carry this disease as well.
Yeah, that proved difficult towards the end of shooting when you were highly contagious and you had to wear that giant bubble suit.
Yeah,
those shoes that you were wearing, anti-gravity shoes, seemed very cumbersome.
Yeah, they were. It was difficult to, kind of watch the dailies all, while still maintaining the constant spins, but Hey, we persevered, and I think the movie was better for it. A lot of this became the sort of we brought a lot of that into
Yeah, I think
the
I think it's a
film.
combination of you hoarding your personal struggles and me relishing in your personal struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of mining those experiences and really trying to showcase the depths of the human condition, and me mocking you for your perceived weaknesses.
Right. I think that
I can remember one time towards the end of our press tour when we were barely talking to each other. There was one point where we were forced to do a joint interview with Mario Lopez, and he asked me some question. I believe the question was about our working relationship, and I called you something to the effect of scaly rattlesnake bald ass motherfucker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to know, I just want to say here in front of, the legions of Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem fans that I'm not sorry.
Yeah. I wouldn't suspect you to be.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this and kind of mulling it over and really reflected, and I just feel like you deserve it.
Yeah, no, I think that you are correct. I've done some heinous things in my life. I think now that I'm sort of reflecting upon it, it's become I since we have not talked in probably 6 to 12 months. Since the wrap of that press tour, I do kind of have an announcement. I believe my doctor has figured out the cause of this disease. Unfortunately, I guess. So part of obviously filming the Alien vs. Predator Requiem 2 required us to do a lot of location scouting. One of those locations, obviously, ancient Egypt was one of the scenes that we had initially had in the movie. It's coming up here in maybe about 2 minutes. We're going to see so the pyramids off in the distance, and we wanted to get the real on location shot for that. Obviously, we had the budget for it with this new film. And do you remember that tomb we uncovered?
Oh yeah,
yeah. And when the guide was like, "Don't go in there," but we didn't speak the language, so we just went in, and I took that lizard statue.
Yeah, that was a cool statue.
And I wore it around my neck for like the rest of the shoot. Yeah, I think that is probably what's causing this, and I'm slowly turning into a lizard man. So that's what's happening. That's why your horrible insult of being scaly is so rings so true to me.
Yeah, no, I chose those words carefully because I loathe and find you to be vile in every way, and I wanted to inflict as much pain with my words as possible. Yeah. However, when I hear this story, I develop a slight sense of empathy just because I recognize the humanity in that momentary desire for a memento, and also just the latent white privilege of kind of nascent colonialism that represents.
Right. Yeah. It's a gorgeous statue. I still have it around my neck.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, that's the only real reason that you're still alive.
Yeah.
Because if you had taken the statue off, undoubtedly you'd just be a zombified lizard man at this point. So there's part of me that thanks you for that. So eventually we can make a third Alien vs. Predator film.
Yeah, but we don't want to get too far ahead. Don't get the fans' hopes up too much. We'd of course love to, but nothing's in place yet.
If Fox would invite us back, we would love to come back.
Happy to come back.
Happy to come back. However, also if Scott ends up dead in a ditch, or if his train derails, I'm fine with that too.
Sure.
Real, granted, my life in Hollywood now is completely empty and meaningless, and I have no friends and just piles of money, but nothing
Yeah.
to spend it on and no one to share it with. But ultimately, I would much rather have that life than being a fuckless, scaly lizard man trapped on a train in a gyroscope trying to regain a pittance of the humanity that I once had.
Well, to each their own, I guess. Let's talk about this coming up scene. We've got the Predator with the alien mask on, and the alien mask's teeth are shown very brightly. Now, there was a set of quintuplets that played the teeth in this scene. Do you want to talk about how we found the quints, as we came to call them?
Yeah, the quints, the baby quints.
Mhm.
We developed a pretty strong relationship with the quints over the shooting of this film. We found them in a blind cattle call,
Mhm.
and the strange thing is they had never met each other. They actually all
It was wild.
independently were raised by separate adoptive parents. Came to the cattle call, and in fact, 3 of the quints had the same haircut. The 4th quint we didn't even know was a quint.
Right. It really kind of raised the nurture or nature kind of question to us, and we tried to incorporate that in their role
into the teeth.
Mhm,
Yeah,
those
we
teeth.
were like, who nurtures these teeth, and what is the nature of these teeth?
Exactly.
Is the predator prey dynamic on display in these teeth? Are the teeth a representation of how the alien truly is, or how the predator views the alien?
Right.
Because it's a mask.
Mm-hmm.
Is that mask representative of something larger? Is the idea of the quints as teeth a synecdoche for the emotional trauma that the predator is undergoing? What is the way that the audience connects to the quints?
Right. And as they sort of, fall out one by one, later on, sort of in the order that we later found out that they came out of the womb, sort of represents this, beautiful, dreamlike state. And, obviously in dreams, when your teeth fall out, you have some terrible worries and things like that. You're under a lot of stress. So that was sort of the symbolism there.
Yeah, it's really kind of beautiful on one level that these 4 people from different walks of life come together in our movie and then never speak again. My understanding is that the quints went back to their respective households and don't really have anything to do with each other.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it really is. It's something that kind of makes you question what you're doing with your life. When it all comes down to it, what are the rocks that you still have to overturn? What are the great passions and loves of your life that you've foregone in pursuit of other things?
Right.
What do those sacrifices look like for you?
Exactly. I think we kind of that's a lot of what this film is talking about as well. Later on, when the predator sort of has that moment where he considers not flushing a toilet, it's a long pause and a beautiful look, and he has to really consider, the divergent paths that he could set his life on.
Yeah, I find myself thinking back to when you and I first met, and I think that time was both a wonderful time and a horrible time.
Right. Yeah, we met in what was it? It was Tennessee at that film festival. You and I both had independent films. What was your film in that festival?
That I believe was my 3rd film, called Lampshade, A Diary of a Lampshade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was about an
beautiful
anthropomorphic. Yeah. It was about an anthropomorphic lampshade and the trials and tribulations that it went through as it tried to take heroin.
Mm-hmm.
What was your film again?
I believe it was called Rehosted Alive, and it was sort of about marshmallows slowly, getting crisper, but they were
like
they were in a
game show hosts.
yeah. There
right?
was
They
a
were like
it was a talk
game
show. It was a
hosts.
talk show.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
roasted
alive.
Yeah, it was supposed to be a dark comedy of, you sort of do these things and you think they're kind of this funny thing that you're doing, but ultimately it's killing you.
It's funny too because I feel like that movie was grossly misunderstood in its time and has slowly garnered a wider and wider fan base.
Mhm.
So much so that when I go to conventions for Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem talks, people often think that I made Roasted Alive, and they try to ask me questions about it, and I really don't have anything to say about it, other than it's a very competently made film. I wish that I could say something otherwise, but I feel like Roasted Alive is one of those films that is kind of underappreciated in its time, and will go on to be one of the films, defining films from that generation.
I hope so. I hope that's true. I hope that people understand what I was going for there. But and then so we met at a party later. I think it was the 16th day of the festival. It was a very long festival, and that was the midway point. It was the halfway party. Who was it that introduced us? It was.
It's a little blurry at this point. It was either Rebecca Swindle or the film festival organizer Fingerbone Jenkins.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because Fingerbone was kind of fluttering around that evening, kind of playing matchmaker, if you will. Of who he thought would work well together.
It's funny too. I often think about if Fingerbone had not introduced us that night, would we even be stuck in this awful lawsuit now?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question, and I think that I may sue Fingerbone just for that later. I hope he has good gladiators. Dude, I'd like to watch that.
If anybody has good gladiators, it's Fingerbone.
That's true.
That guy, I remember once going out to dinner with Fingerbone, his husband, and his husband's husband, and they told me a story about how they collectively sued Fingerbone's husband's other husband for the rights to his film, My Husband's Husband, which was a documentary about the four of their relationship.
Right.
And it's gnarly. It is gnarly.
Yeah.
I would kudos to you for trying to sue Fingerbone, because I have no interest in getting involved in that.
Yeah. Listen, I just like to watch gladiatorial sport, and will pay insane amounts of money to do so. Especially since it's the one true thing I have left in this world. But that is a beautiful movie, My Husband's Husband. I wonder if because Fox owns the rights to My Husband's Husband now as well. I wonder if there's opportunity there to create a cinematic universe for My Husband's Husband and Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Infinite. I could see that. It'd be an interesting, parody. I think that they sort of complement each other. There's a lot of the same themes that are happening, sort of the betrayal, the folly of man, the basic needs of someone in a relationship not being met.
Yeah. I could also see, I don't know how well you remember My Husband's Husband, but I could see them all playing Predator mandibles. That would be, I think that would be a very daring, avant-garde choice.
I could see that as well. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And they could also be very. Oh, sorry.
This scene right here, I just want to talk briefly. This scene, the shower bar is actually made up of 17 different performances that have been digitally composited. Also by the Quints.
Yeah.
The Quints, they really helped us out, filled in a lot, did some wonderful work. I just wanted to call attention to that very briefly, just because I felt like,
Right, we had mentioned before, we might as well call them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, I've completely forgotten. I'm mostly upside down right now, so my brain is starting to come out of my head. So let me get a little bit of a twist going on here.
Yeah.
So in the back, so a lot of this too, in this film, we see a lot more of the door, and the way that the predator. I guess in this version, the alien dressed as the predator sort of enters this bathroom, this separate Takishan bathroom.
Yeah, we worked really hard to get the grout and the tile to be authentically Takishan.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We really wanted to have it really honor the people there. They're actually handcrafted Takishan tiles. But the door behind the alien predator in this film is created completely out of rubber hoses, which are very, very small. Obviously, these are 7-story tall models. So they're we picked the colors very carefully to sort of pixel create pixel perfect doors, and that's what we had there. If you look very closely in one of the scenes, you'll be able to see a small love message written by the alien to the predator that he was able to see once he walked in the door. That was completely purposeful. We wanted to kind of give the predator, as he walked in, one extra hurdle to overcome of seeing this beautiful past love note that gets thrown aside before the final betrayal.
Quite as demoralizing as missed opportunity.
Exactly.
And that's really that's the kind of core that we wanted to drive at for this film. We wanted to showcase the ineptitude of these two people, about how they keep missing each other, about how they seem to be almost cursed in a way, star-crossed lovers in another life. They constantly have these potential situations, but ultimately they can never really connect because they're never really out for anyone other than themselves.
Right. And that's, I think, you see a lot of that in the movie's theater scene, where they go to the theater to watch Alien vs. Predator: Infinite Requiem 1 and stay there for the end of eternity.
That ending took months to get us cleared, and that's actually one of the few ideas that are a holdover from Vanessa Hudgens' draft.
Right.
She was the one who was like, we'll give this fairy tale ending of them meeting up as friends, going to this theater, watching the first movie, and then, clasping hands and looking into the screen and it being this kind of, is this a dream? Is this real life? Is this metatextual commentary?
Right.
What is this? She was the one who was like, look, Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem fans, they've been serviced by the original film. Let's make Alien vs. Predator Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Infinite, service everyone else.
Right.
Let's broaden the scope. Let's make this the biggest, broadest, most extremely art house film ever made.
Exactly. And I think that we also, really wanted to, sell more tickets to the first movie that's still playing in theaters. So we really wanted it sort of served. The Fox really wanted to kind of push that a little bit. Once they saw that in the draft, they're like, "Oh, this is a great ad for the first one in the second film," and that makes sense to me. But also, we wanted to sort of take an interesting twist on that. I think it was your idea that theater should burn down with everyone inside it. We kind of do that pan back, kind of out the door, and then you see that the theater is burning.
Yeah, no, that definitely was my idea, and that's one of the ideas that you surprisingly didn't fight me on.
Right.
It's
beautiful.
I was pleasantly surprised. that you completely were on board. I was like, this is great. You know, Scott is actually listening to me. Maybe our relationship will have rounded the corner and we're going to be able to communicate like we used to communicate. And then, you know, I was the one who had the idea to have the credits run backwards, and you just fought me tooth and nail.
Yeah,
and I was like, oh,
I thought they should definitely go upside down. That backwards is ridiculous.
Again, man, you know, this is why I have no sympathy that your skin is falling off and you're trapped on that train in the Amazon. Like, this is...
trapped is a little melodramatic.
That's true. It's
a choice that I'm making to have the train constantly be powering my gyroscope. So,
yeah, that's true. Scott, when you finished this film, what was the first thing that kind of came into your head? Like, when you saw the final cut, when you saw it in the theater, what was your first reaction?
I think, I mean, you'll remember you were sitting on the very far side of the same row. That's how we always watch all of our films together. Is one of us will sit on the far left side in the middle row, and the other one will sit on the far right. So we make sure that we kind of incorporate the whole theater. We don't want to sit in the direct middle. But you'll remember that I stood up and then immediately fell over the chair in front of me, sobbing, and said, you know, we did it. You know, I think that such a powerful emotional, you know, note that it hits at the end where we, you know, kill all of the characters and little known fact, we actually killed all of the actors that were part of those.
Well, except for the Quints. We killed the Quints. Yeah, everyone else.
Right. Well, they had already fallen out of the mouth.
Yeah.
By that point. So, obviously not them. They survived. But, you know, it was such a beautiful sight to see them memorialized in that way.
Yeah, it's strange that I had something of a similar reaction. The only difference was that I saw the single flaw that we missed.
Oh, no.
Yeah, there's one scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger's face appears as a reflection in the Predator's eye. Mm-hmm. You know, Arnold came to the set that day. He was visiting. He was giving his blessing to the film, and we really appreciated that. He was also an executive producer on the film and an uncredited writer. He did a pass on it in between the Vanessa Hudgens draft and the eventual shooting draft.
Right.
But we didn't digitally remove him from the Predator's eye. Originally, we left it in there just as an homage to the original, you know, to Dutch, to the original actors that birthed the franchise.
Sort of a wink and a nod.
Yeah, something of a literal wink to the past. Right. And then, you know, ultimately, I just feel like it might have been the wrong move because this movie is about so much more than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
This movie is about love and lust and erosion and attrition and dealing with the looming specter that is loneliness.
Right.
You know, and including Schwarzenegger felt like that cheapened it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was crying at first too, you know, jointly with you because I was like, we did do it. We did it. Yes, Scott, we did do it. And then I started to stick and bump on that Schwarzenegger cameo, and I started crying because I realized that you were so close to making a perfect film, and we failed.
Well, see, this is one of those times where I wholeheartedly disagree with you, Dave. I think keeping Arnold's, you know, beautiful visage in the eyes, those reflections, you know, helped sort of connect this to the past. I think the film, you know, really has to, you know, really start from the roots, and that's why, you know, even though, you know, Danny Glover couldn't make it to this film again, unfortunately, having Arnold even as a bit of a nod to, you know, where the franchise has been before and, you know, where it could go in the future, once we recast everybody with new actors that are still alive. It really shows the generational aspect of the AVP IR universe, in my opinion.
Yeah, I hear that. I can respect that. I think you're completely wrong, but I can respect that. Yeah. This film, I think, is a big labor of love for the two of us, despite the fact that we were at each other's throats the entire time.
Right.
The actual film, I think, is a fairly accurate representation of where both of us were at the time.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the camera trickery we did with the sort of the inset section of the shower? How it actually doesn't go back. It's I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but I will anyway. But the shower here, I believe it was Jonathan Thanerold that created this beautiful backdrop, sort of a matte painting, but it was more of a matte sculpture to give that real feeling of a square, but with all these incredible moving dots to create this beautiful pixelation, sort of a moire effect that he had going on. It was quite stunning.
Yeah, I was very impressed with his work, and in fact, I've been talking with him about making a film without actors, with this same technique.
Yeah, he does great work, beautiful stuff. You were the one that found him. Where was it that you found him?
I found him on Usenet. Yeah, I was originally looking for people on SBC Global,
right,
and Yahoo, but ultimately they just proved to be too out of date. But Usenet provided me with a very accurate and a very affordable pool of freelancers to draw from. And ultimately Jonathan proved to be much more than that. He proved to be a collaborator and a friend and a confidant and an ally in my apparently never-ending quest for your demise.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I think that the work he does, he's such a dedicated artist that I think that his incredible attention to detail could go unnoticed, or you'd think that it's some sort of digital computer generated random
I feel like people don't give him enough credit because they just see it and they think, oh, a computer did that.
Right.
I'm like, but a computer is just a tool. Like, a computer is the same as a paintbrush. It's just square and heavy.
The wild thing about Jonathan's work, if you're unfamiliar, dear viewer, is he does all of those sort of calculations by hand. He's got notebooks filled of just mathematical equations. So even though, but it looks like it's done by a computer, it sort of is. But Jonathan is that computer. It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Lately, he's been using abacuses, abaci,
I believe it's abaci.
Yeah. He's been using abaci, and it's really just his game is just leveled up.
Right. Yeah.
So far.
No, Abacai's a great guy. I'm so glad that Jonathan finally got an assistant on the project.
Yeah, I thought that he would never do it. I thought he would be too precious and just do it himself forever.
Right.
But Abacai, I think, is really helping Jonathan with some of the details, the things that you don't really expect to kind of need to examine.
Exactly.
Yeah, what do you think the biggest the biggest triumph of the film is? What do you think is the thing that we did the best?
I mean, I think the beginning of it, right? Like the opening scene is probably the best scene of the film, when it's sort of that low, rumble that you hear in the whole theater. If you're in a theater watching it, which is pretty much the only way to watch this movie, I don't think that if you're watching at home on a DVD or Blu-ray, you're really doing yourself a disservice by watching this at all. But when you're in the theater watching this movie, that low rumble that goes on for 20 minutes or so, with a black screen and sort of the faint outlines of these characters intermingling, it's just beautiful stuff. You and I had some clashes over whose flailing body parts we would be using for which specific cuts to get the right mood. But ultimately, I think that it's gorgeous, and no one's done anything like that on film before. What about you? What do you think is the best?
I think the biggest triumph of the film was honestly that it got made. Like just the simple sheer feat
of completion.
Like there were many times where the film kind of stalled out momentum wise, and I thought, well, this is it.
Right.
We had a good run.
Yeah.
But the fact that we finished it, we delivered it on time, we delivered it slightly over budget, but not by much.
Only a few million.
Yeah. And we created something that is both for the fans and for humanity.
Right.
We're recording this DVD commentary before the film has been released, so we don't actually know the critical reception.
I assume it will be incredible.
Especially because the critical reception for the last film, while it made a bunch of money, it only has 308 views on YouTube and 1 comment.
Right.
And 6 thumbs up. So I really do feel like we can do better this time around. I feel like we can break 309 views and 7 thumbs up.
Yeah, I hope that's true. Comments. I hope that's true. Even though we are both incredibly independently wealthy because of the financial success, those 300 people that viewed it have really paid, and we are thankful for those 300 people, 300 plus people, just to kind of round it down. I want to be a little modest here, but
yeah, I mean that's fine. You can be modest. I'll be brazen. 308, motherfucker. Let's do this.
Oh, it's good to laugh, even though it hurts.
Yeah, I am just very thankful that the movie was greenlit. I'm thankful to the people at Fox for supporting us. I'm thankful to the fans for showing up. I'm thankful that I don't have to see you anymore.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm thankful that you're on that train, because the Amazon is a lot farther from Hollywood than your fucking boat off the coast.
Oh, my boat was all over. It wasn't on the coast. It was in the ocean. I think it was in the Atlantic.
Oh, that's right. You were in the Atlantic. Never mind then.
Right. I feel like I'm maybe closer now.
Yeah, probably.
But you mentioned
that sucks. But whatever.
You mentioned that we did this, so for the fans. Do you want to talk about the fan visit on the set? And
oh yeah, we did an Omaze charity auction.
Mm-hmm.
It was I think you can still enter. Strangely enough, even though the contest is over.
Yeah.
It's omaze.com/Infinite Requiem 2 Requiem for the Infinites contest. Omaze.
Yeah. .com.
.com.
I don't know why they have the second .com in there, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with being able to track.
Yeah.
To test it. I'm not sure.
It's the technical stuff we don't really deal with.
So we did an Omaze charity campaign to promote the film and to also help alleviate hunger in Taquito. There's so many Tahitians who need our help, and we couldn't really spare too much money out of our $475 million that we're using to make this film. So we decided to just kind of use this organization, Omaze, and we would have people buy raffle tickets, and if they won, they got to come visit the set, and all of the money from that would go to the Tahitians. And we felt like that was a better situation than trying to do something more positive.
Right, to try to pay them, livable wages and things like that. So
yeah, livable wages.
No.
But anyway, so we had two lovely people come visit the set. Their names were Sword Swallower McGinty and Phantom Breath Jones, and they came to the set. They saw what we were doing,
right?
And they were both really big Predator fans and Alien fans,
right?
Strangely, they were really big fans of you, which I was surprised at because I'm usually the face of the franchise.
Right. Especially since my face is mostly coming off. That a lot of the FaceTime that we had together, I think was precious to them. I hope to be able to see my face.
Yeah, I mean they might be the last bipedal, anthropoids to actually see your face.
Right. Before I fully succumb to the lizard plague. Which I'm looking forward to, honestly. I think now that it's sort of, hit me that this will be my, final form of becoming a lizard man and losing this, ape skin. I think that, although the cold-bloodedness doesn't feel like it will be beneficial necessarily, I think that, with enough lamps and things like that, it could be a real positive thing for me.
I have faith in you. I think it could be really great. Yeah, I don't know. So, we took them around set. We showed them some stuff. They saw some stuff.
Yeah.
And then we put them on a plane back home.
Yeah.
Because...
do you want to? Do you remember the line that got used? One of them said, "What was it? Shoot." There was one specific line in a key pivotal point that they suggested and we ended up using.
Oh, right. We were on set and one of the friends, I think it was Phantom Breath, came up to you and had asked for a blanket.
Right. That's right.
But they were so cold that their teeth were chattering and they had bit part of their tongue, and they were saying, "Oh, I just need a blanket." Yeah, it was really strange, and so we ended up putting it in the movie.
Right. It was such an odd occurrence, especially with bits of tongue and blood going everywhere, that we couldn't not include that in the film. Especially the actual real bits of tongue of our guest. They were pretty honored. We did not pay them for that. That was part of. Luckily, Omaze is so great that was part of the contract of entering, is that any body parts that you may leave or lose during the course of your visit is welcome for everyone to use.
Yeah, it was a positive experience. I don't really foresee us doing that again, just because so many of those people that entered the competition were, well, quite frankly, they were terrible.
Yeah,
they were really real bad.
Just awful people. Just awful people.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like over the course of making this film, I learned a lot about the human condition. I feel like I've learned that I can hear your train.
Oh yeah, that's we're coming up on a small town. I think it's you're coming up on Falinko. It's a mountain town. So that's just
Mm.
I'm sort of in the back of the train, so you can hear the whistle of the train announcing our arrival.
Mm. Yeah, I hope that you rot in Falenko. I hope you die there. But I think I'll never do another one of these charity cases again, mostly because I don't really want to have to be face to face with the human condition.
Boy, it's the worst, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you just have to just look at these people and go, God, you are awful. I never want to be this.
Yep. I don't want anything that you're selling.
Right. Oh, look at this. So we're coming up on the final theater scene. Do you want to talk about the building that we used for this?
Yeah, we used a building that was in the lower east side of Taquito, and it originally was condemned, but we renovated it, we gutted it, we actually built an ice cream parlor in the front.
Yeah,
and we used the money from the ice cream parlor to offset the renovation costs, and that's how we ultimately were able to shoot in there for 9 months. I know this scene only takes 30 seconds, but we did end up shooting it for about 9.5.
Yeah, we really that ice cream parlor really revitalized the entirety of that town. So when we burned it down, we not only burned down that, but the entire town's livelihood, essentially, with it. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was. It was sad when the whole town kind of went up ablaze, but also, we don't have to deal with the moral consequences of it because we don't live in Taquito. And so honestly, I felt bad in the moment when all of the villagers were yelling at me about being the white devil. But then I came back to LA, and everyone here looks like me, and no one here is upset. So ultimately, if a tree falls in the woods and burns down some people's homes,
what are you gonna
but
do
no
about
one
it?
sees, but what does it mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that it ultimately, like, the thing is, if you are going to invite us in, you should have a pretty good fire department. I think that's not to
Yeah, it's not on us to put out the fires that we started.
Exactly.
We just started the fires.
Right. And just because they went completely out of control and destroyed an entire city doesn't mean that we're the bad guys here.
Yeah, but it's also not like we destroyed a whole mega city.
Right.
It's just a city.
Just a little city. A mini city.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
City's generous. Let's face it.
Yeah, it was like village. It was like a super village.
Like a
village plus.
A hamlet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you, this sequence in the theater features a cameo by someone from your family that you requested. You want to give us a little bit of thought about that?
Oh, yeah. Sabrina makes a surprise appearance in this. My sister. She really, we wanted to have her back again. She, if you remember, she was the tail in the first movie, those last few vertebrae. And although that we went a different direction since the predator would be having a fake tail, and her movements would be way too fluid for her real tail. Let me tell you, especially after all of her method acting from the first film. But she comes back in this theater scene as it's coming up here in a moment when there's a sconce on the left-hand side that slowly starts to get a little brighter and then gets really bright as you sort of pass it. That's Sabrina. She's wonderful. She was the first thing to go up in flames during that filming. So I'm very appreciative that she again would come back on and burn as brightly as she did for this film. Yeah,
burn bright like a diamond.
Exactly.
That song was actually playing while she died. It was
beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was really, really beautiful. And she was the real, her death was the reason that the whole city went up in flames, which is, poetic on
Right.
that.
Yeah. It really meant a lot to other people. I think it speaks to a lot of people, sort of about the relationship you have with your family and how it can be sometimes it could sometimes be too real, if you will.
Yeah, there's a version of it that is so potent that you can't help. It is what it is. But ultimately, the pain is temporary. Film lasts forever, and she's going to be immortal now.
Yeah, immortalized in this film, and and maybe in the films to come if we keep reusing that Scott scene.
Yeah, we've talked about that. If there is an Alien versus Predator Infinite Requiem 3 subtitle currently
in the works, we don't want to give away too much. We have to leave something for the publicists.
Yeah. And now we're coming to the final shot where they're clasping hands.
This scene of then the hand clasp and the slow moving out of the theater. This is what took the 9 months to shoot. This is essentially they took one step every day and filmed a continual 24-hour sort of a slow, a very, very tightly, a small aperture, essentially, a shot of 24 hours for each frame. And that's why it took so long. Our cinematographer, Figure 4,
Bjorn and Figure 4.
He really believed in this method, and so we really wanted to let him have it, and I think it turned out beautifully.
Yeah, I initially wasn't sold, shooting it one step at a time, one day at a time. But I think the end product, you just can't argue with it. It's just empirically better.
Yeah. I wish we could have shot the whole thing like that, honestly, where every frame is a whole day, but and as wonderful as Fox was to work with on this film, that just wasn't going to happen. Yeah.
And here we come to the end credits, which are rolling the way you wanted them to. So I hope that you're glad that you won that.
I am. I am glad. I mean, I made some different concessions throughout the portions of the film that you have conveniently forgotten. And this is why we hate each other and will never, be able to work on anything other than this money-making machine.
Yeah. The experience was bittersweet, but I'm glad we did it. And Scott, maybe do you want to tell people who want to donate money to your health fund?
Oh, sure.
Being a lizard man, or where can they find you on the internet?
I currently have a GoFundMe for my lizard man skin graft operation. GoFundMe.com/Scott Drummond lizard man removal. Although, truth be told, I think I'm just going to let it happen and become a full lizard man. I think it's, I'm pretty excited about this new chapter in my life. Additionally, if you would like to check out the comic work I do, it's at nightsmokecomic.com. You can find the young adult superhero comic that I create there. And Dave, what about yourself?
You can find me at fuckscottdrummond.com or at heydavebaker.com, where you can find all my comics and such. Books like Action Hospital, Fuck Off Squad, and Suicide Force. Also, Scott, if you do let the Lizard Man virus consume you, does that mean you're going to change your last name from Drummond to Lizardman?
I hadn't considered it. I suspect that once that change occurs, I will see how I feel if I need a new last name to go with this new identity, or if I'll retain enough of my mental capacity and memories to still consider myself Scott Drummond.
Well, either way, I hope you die in a ditch.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I hope
so
you choke on your banh mi or whatever the heck you do in LA.
Alien vs. Predator, Infinite Requiem 2, Requiem for the Infinite fans. Thank you very much for listening.